Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher. It's time for Square Off's third and final 2024 election special. Let's meet our panel. First of all, we have the professional talker, the amazing Andrew Langer, Pastor Shannon Wright, who is Square Off's spiritual advisor. Good to have you. Attorney Barry Gogel, making his second appearance, and the return to Square Off from a few years back, attorney Darlene Kennedy. Darlene, welcome back. It's great to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Richard. You look fantastic.
I'm sorry.
I said you look real sexy and fantastic.
Uh, you have one more adjective, we can end the show here. Just kidding. All right. So the 2024 presidential election is history. Former President Donald Trump scoring an overwhelming victory, beating Vice President Kamala Harris, who did win our great state of Maryland, by the way. Trump winning both the popular vote and the electoral vote. Darlene, you're new or back. Let's hear from you.
Well, it's no surprise, unfortunately, because part of the problem is the Democratic Party didn't reach the people that Trump and Vance reached, and those are the people who felt left out of the party and left out of the fight. Unfortunately, maybe this time the Democrats will learn a lesson that you just can't go rah rah. You have to actually go out there and meet with the people and discuss their issues. The wallet was a big issue. Economy was a big issue.
Well, okay. I was going to pursue that a little further, but I'm going to wait a second and want to hear from Andrew.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, to me, it's interesting because there's a lot of blame that's being cast on the idea that it was a very compressed electoral process. It really wasn't. I mean, obviously, we rushed to the end, but Kamala Harris has been running for president for a very long time. The problem is when you're running for president, you can't repudiate all of your past positions and then not articulate why that repudiation has changed, also not answer any real substantive questions about what it is that you want to do. And at the same time, while your incumbent president is enormously unpopular, not enunciate anything where you would have departed from him substantially. So all of these things sort of conspired together for this result.
Darlene Kennedy.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I agree that it was a bowl of things that were occurring at once. It was a tsunami, basically, and I think people argue it wasn't enough time. I have to agree with Andrew. She didn't remove herself from the Biden administration. I think one of the big issues was Gaza. She never, she always danced around it, and I think that cost her part of the election, part of her
Barry,
electoral votes.
Barry, were you surprised at the outcome? Not that Trump won, but by as much as he did.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised at the outcome. I thought that, but I did think that she did not prosecute her case well. When
Mm.
she came in, she was going to be the prosecutor who was going to expose Donald Trump, and she didn't do that. She didn't make her argument that what we're getting is not what he's selling. And I agree. He made the better compelling closing argument. Well, I don't agree with it, but they broke it. I'll fix it argument that he made
Mm.
in the closing days. I think when I saw those ads, I realized that he was running the better campaign. Don't
Mm.
agree with it. Don't agree. I think history shows a very different story about how Republicans leave office, 92, 2008, even with COVID. That the Democratic Party is the one that's actually been fixing things, and we're getting an economy that's a lot better now. As difficult as the last 4 years have been, it's a lot better now than it was 4 years ago. We did go through inflation, which is a natural byproduct of the infusion that everybody agreed we needed during COVID to keep the country to survive. The very people
Hey,
who
Barry.
benefited from that were the ones who voted against Kamala because of inflation.
Shannon, first of all, congratulations. You are the Republican nominee, the candidate rather, for the Republican Party for mayor of Baltimore. and you did not win, but you certainly ran a winning campaign. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. Just move back a little bit from your mic. I just want to ask you, President Biden choosing not to run for re-election while endorsing Harris. This gave Harris just 107 days for her entire presidential campaign. So, Shannon, do you think Harris would have fared better had Biden announced, say, 2 years ago that he was in it for just one term? Everything could have been different, including the Democratic candidate. Shannon, I want your reaction, then Andrews.
So I think the only way the outcome would have been different for the Democrats was if there was a different Democrat at the top of the ticket. And I say that because if 2020 is any indication, she didn't do so good. Folks, we're not feeling her. We're not vibing with her. It wasn't connecting then. So she would have had to have shown that she could withstand a primary and win. She would have to have shown that she has some sort of support. And that, if you look at 2020, you know clearly that's not the case. And her approval rating, her positivity wasn't so great during the administration. So I think no matter how much time she had, under these circumstances of being the only one, not showing that she fought for her party's nomination, I think would have left her in the same position.
Andrew, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm also someone who thought that if Biden was really going to step away, he should have stepped away entirely and made Kamala Harris president of the United States. I think it's much harder to not picture her as presidential if she's actually serving as president of the United States. There are so many different tactical errors that were done. Was Tim Walz the right candidate for vice president? Whether or not Josh Shapiro would have been better. You know, the reality is, again, Kamala Harris, as Shannon said, rightly so, was not popular in 2019 and into 2020. But I think if the Democrats had gone through an actual primary process, maybe they might have fared better. But also, then again, if the Democrats had gone through a full-on primary process, Donald Trump might not have been the Republican candidate either.
Comment, anyone?
Well, hindsight's 2020,
right?
And had she won, people would have said it was a brilliant move by the Democrats not to put her through a primary so that she didn't have to appease the left wing of the party and could appear more centrist as she did, or at least tried to do. I think some of it talks about maybe the problems with our two-party primary system, where we're not getting candidates that are for people like me who consider themselves centrist, fiscally sound, socially responsible candidates. We're not getting that, and that's a problem of our two-party primary system. But maybe that's a show for another day.
Go ahead,
well, I have to give. I was going to say I have to give Vice President-elect some credit in an article, opinion piece he did in the Atlantic back in 2016. One of the things that article brought up that Vance stated is that the little people want to take over the machine, not to break it, but to make it better for everyone. He talks a lot about the community of Appalachia, and all those things are great. I mean, coming from people who were from the South, I get it. I get the living dirt poor and moving up the ladder, but what are his real intentions? What is, I don't know what his politics are, and that's what concerns me more than anything. Where the direction of this country could go if he had the opportunity to be president.
Well, I think we're gonna see that. I want to take this in a slightly different direction because it's something that I wanted to bring up, because Richard talked about something really interesting, which is, of course, obviously Kamala Harris won the popular vote here in Maryland. So Maryland's electoral votes went to her. I'm wondering if this is going to put to rest the push to create the national popular vote system, right? As a way of getting around the Constitution's system of the Electoral College, right? If the National Popular Vote Compact had taken place here, California, Maryland, I think even New York, the electoral votes would have gone to Donald Trump, and I don't think the folks who are pushing for that want to see that. So I just throw that out there as one of many bad ideas that I'm hoping is going to be put to rest as a result of this election.
I have to disagree. May I?
Go, Barry.
You're thinking that the compact makes electoral votes important. It doesn't. Someone still has to explain to me why a vote in Wyoming is worth 7 times as much for the president as a vote in California.
I can explain that in the same way that the senatorial votes of a place like Montana are the same as the senatorial votes in a place like Rhode Island or a place like California, because that's the way the system is set up to balance out the interests of the various states and the various kinds of people out there, so that the same people who J.D. Vance is talking to feel like they have as much of a voice as someone who is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
No, but they have more of a voice.
No, they don't though. It all balances out, right?
More
That's
of
the
a
whole
voice.
nature of this.
No, I think they do have more of a voice. If you look at the Dakotas, why do we have now North and the South to enable a very low populated state to have 2 senators represent?
Then why does
this is not
Vermont
the
and aren't the
1800s?
same
One
thing with
second, Andrew.
Vermont and the same as Vermont and New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Delaware and the small states in the Northeast that are consistently blue? Again, that's the whole nature of the beast, is so that the large states can't dictate to the smaller states. That's the balance of interest that underpins everything in our constitutional system.
And that's important in a legislative context. But when we're selecting one individual to represent us all, it's a big disparity in the votes of individuals.
Barry, but in an environment in which the executive branch has enormous power and has been an ever increasing amount of power over the last 50 years, the fact that that these states have a say in a bureaucracy that has in turn enormous power over their livelihoods, I would say that helps balance out that power as well.
I think the electoral. Oh, sorry, Barry. I was just going to say.
Okay. Darlene, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in.
All I'm going to say real quick, I believe it's time to change the electoral college and just go to the popular vote, because I think it is a better representation of what people would like to happen. I put my vote in thinking, wow, I'm one of 100 million people voting, and each vote counts. Technically, it really doesn't, because it's what the electoral college says it is. And I think that's totally unfair.
That might be
an anachronism.
We'll take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, who won the election by a landslide. The voice of Square Off, President-elect Howard Mallison.
We'll take the oath again. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very popular and very recognizable, so much so that you can't walk down the street without people coming up and thanking him for telling it like it is. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. In fact, you should call Barry before you call the insurance company. His clients will tell you that Barry gets you more compensation than you ever expected. He's that good. So give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let him know you heard about him on Square Off. With the Ravens, what a wonderful Ravens win last night. 2 wins in 1 week and a quest for a Super Bowl. What better way to watch the game than going to Pappas sports bars and restaurants? You can dine in the sports bar surrounded by more big screen TVs than you could ever imagine, or you can have a gourmet meal in the dining room section of Pappas. Either way, you can enjoy the award-winning Pappas crab cake, imperial crab, and much, much more. Plus, they ship crab cakes all over the country. And yes, Oprah does get her crab cake shipped all the time. At Pappas, you can enjoy a dining experience second to none. Tell them Richard Sher sent you for the Fab Cake. Back to you, Richard.
All right, Howard, thank you very much. President-elect Trump made history this past week by choosing Susie Wiles. She's the de facto manager of his victorious campaign. He will be happy to have her as the White House chief of staff. This will be the first time a woman ever held this influential position. Shannon, you like that?
I think it's awesome. She did her job in terms of keeping the candidate corralled and keeping the crazies away. And I think that that's something that's going to be very much necessary during this Trump administration. And I think she's the perfect person to be able to do it.
Andrew, what do you think?
Uh-oh.
Andrew,
Yeah, no, I know. I'm muted. Do me a favor, come back to me because I've got dogs barking in the background. So just come back to me in a second.
I don't mind the dogs.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, then listen. I think she's it's a pick that not a lot of us know her, but I think in the same way that we had senior people from previous campaigns advising folks like George W. Bush. I think this is a great pick. I think there are going to be a lot of strong, smart women who are going to be advising Donald Trump in the second term. So I think it's a great idea.
Well, he said he's going to take care of women, whether they like it or not. That way.
Right.
So he'll be taking care of you, Darlene.
Well, I don't know her well at all. I don't not know his pick for well, but I will say, based on his business acumen, and one of his most powerful allies, who now is not his ally, was a woman to work in his corporation. So perhaps that's the magic finger, the magic of wand that a woman can keep him corralled.
Well, the president-elect has vowed to swiftly enact a radical agenda that would transform nearly every aspect of American government, including the largest deportation effort in the nation's history, to use the Justice Department to punish his enemies, to dramatically expand the use of tariffs, and to again pursue a foreign policy that threatens to upend longstanding foreign alliances, including the NATO pact. Andrew, what do you think about that? Or Barry?
Let Andrew go. I'd like to respond to him.
Sure, I appreciate that because I think I'm the only one here who has an international relations degree. So let me start on that first, which is both the tariff issue and the NATO and alliances issue. Listen, America needs to have a foreign policy that puts America's interests first, whether it's America's economic interests first or whether it is our military and national security interests first. And the reality is that in the first Trump term, tariffs were used as a negotiating tool. I know from firsthand knowledge that there are foreign corporations who are deeply concerned about this and want to go and negotiate with the administration over what's going to happen to them on the tariff front. By the same token, making NATO's partners pay, as we all talk about with tax policy, their fair share in terms of that alliance is not a bad thing. This is the reality of the situation. They should be paying more. And to just go back to the first Trump term, the same kinds of things were levied against him. And we had a period of unprecedented stability on the international stage in terms of the foreign entanglements that we were in and then other flashpoints around the world. So I am all in favor of a revived Trump foreign policy in administration number 2.
Now, Barry, you can respond as requested.
Yeah, unprecedented stability is not consistent with my recollection. My recollection is that our allies were at our throats, distrusting of us, concerned about us, and wanting to departner from us. My recollection is Trump was whispering in the ear of Putin.
Okay.
That let me finish.
Hold on, Andrew.
All right.
That type of foreign policy and is what really set this country on edge. We forget that we had 4 years of American people on edge about everything.
Okay.
So to use the word stability with Donald Trump is, I think they call that an oxymoron.
Okay. So let's sort of take it, right? In 2014, Russia invades Ukraine. Barack Obama in 2012 tells Mitt Romney that the 1980s wanted their foreign policy back. Barack Obama sends a signal to Russia. Russia invades Ukraine. Barack Obama does nothing. Donald Trump becomes president in 2017. No further incursions into Ukraine. Why? Because we were working to bottom out the Russian oil economy so they couldn't fund their war machine. So we can talk about whispering in Putin's ear. while at the same time we're doing things to bankrupt their economy so they can't do the real things that are going on around the world. We had the Abraham Accords signed in the Middle East. We didn't have further incursions by the enemies of Israel into their territory. We had kept China in check. We kept North Korea in check, even as they were launching missiles. So the reality is that American people getting put on edge because the media is telling them that they need to be on edge is belied by the reality of what was happening out there on the international sphere.
All right, Darlene.
One of the things I wanted to say is that it's ironic that the administration that is to come forward, taxes. I'm a tax person, so that's why I bring it up. They want to give the high end the high end earners more tax credits, tax cuts, tax credits, or whatever you want to call them. The fact of the matter is, the people at the bottom will suffer more from that. There is, it's so ironic, as you said earlier, Barry, that the people who voted for him are probably going to suffer the most in the end.
Correct.
Let's remember that it was our own Peter Franchot who scored the original Trump tax cuts and said that 86% of Marylanders were going to either see their taxes go down. 86% of Marylanders were going to see their taxes either go down or not change. That's not Donald Trump saying it. That's Peter Franchot saying it. So I'm inclined to believe that those metrics that are out there.
All right, we're going to talk
about.
And
what will they pay more in tariffs, and where will they pay elsewhere? And who's of the 86? Who's going to see the greatest gains?
Well, Barry, if we're going to talk about the taxes from tariffs, then we have to talk about the $1.5 trillion in increased regulatory costs the Biden administration has put on and how that translates into increased expenses for people. The reality is tariffs are a negotiation tool. If you negotiate with the U.S. government over what you're going to do on the international stage, so you're not going to flood our market with cheap goods that make American firms not able to compete, then you're going to get a tariff on you. But if you're willing to negotiate, you don't get a tariff. That's the whole point. That's why it's not a tax. It is a negotiating tool.
We need to stop here.
Well, not only that, if I could...
Hold on, everybody.
No, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that. We're going to pause for a moment. We want to get back and discuss Hogan and also Brooks and what happened there in the race for Maryland's Senate seat. Howard, take it away.
Thank you, Rich. It amazes me how crazy some people drive on high-speed roads these days, weaving in and out of lanes. It's no wonder there's so many accidents. I'm surprised that actually there's so few bad accidents where people are, really hospitalized. Leading Edge Auto Body and Mechanical Repair want you to know that the insurance companies, they can't tell you where to take your car. Check out their reviews on Yelp and their 5-star reviews on Google. Leading Edge works on all makes and models and offers free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give them a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. And without a doubt, Baltimore is one of the best, if not the best, diner towns in the country. And the most popular and award-winning of them all are the Double T diners, TT. It means totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, dinner, the Double T menu offers you so many choices. You're going to want to order everything. Everything is delish. Plus, you have to save room for dessert because they got the best desserts there are. With locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, Monday nights are lobster night at By the Docks in Middle River. It's all part of the Double T family. Back to you, Richard.
Hey, we all take our cars, not all of us, but Annabelle and I take our cars down to Jeff Siegel at Leading Edge. They make your car look like new. I'm telling you that you have my approval. Well, I know you had other things to say, panel, but let's talk about the victory for Prince George's County Executive Democrat Angela Also Brooks, who defeated former Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan. She will become the first Black woman in the history of Maryland to win a seat in the U.S. Senate. In fact, she's one of a handful to become a U.S. Senator. Also Brooks will replace retiring Senator Ben Cardin. Go ahead. Let's hear from Shannon Wright on this first.
Well, I'm actually really sad that she won. And I'll tell you why. her campaign was one of the many that this year followed the playbook of don't talk about what you're going to do, just talk about the other guy's back. Just vote for me, and a vote for me is not for me, it's just against the other guy, because the other guy is just terrible. It doesn't say what she would support other than anything put out by a Democrat. When you talk about straight party lines and straight party policies, it leaves us in a bad place. We need folks that are going to vote for policy based on the people, not the party.
What, Barry? Why are you cocking your head? What does that mean?
Well, because policy based on the people, not the party. I'm wondering what she's saying about the parties and their policies. I think that I like both of these candidates. I think neither one is perfect. I've gotten to hear from both of them, and I've gotten to hear what they were going to do for both of them. I think Hogan is a victim of Trump, and Hogan is a victim of a party that has left him. So I guess that's what you're talking about, Shannon, when you say to vote for the person over the party. And again, Hogan's a unicorn, and unfortunately, getting back to what I said earlier with the two-party primary system, I don't know that we're going to see Larry Hogan's in the world again, and that's unfortunate because I think he is a centrist person who has a good heart. But I think also Brooks is a bright and shining voice as well.
Andrew?
I think Larry Hogan is emblematic of the idea when you try to be all things to all people, you're nothing to anybody. I mean, Hogan went out and needlessly antagonized the base Republican voters. He did not do anything to sort of capitalize on the Maryland Question 1 issue as a way to bring people out in support of him. But listen, I've got all kinds of criticisms of Larry Hogan, who I don't think ever really capitalized on the work that he did before he became governor. The nonprofit organization he put together, Changed Maryland, could have really been a force over the long term for transforming in Maryland in the ways that Barry is talking about in terms of trying to bring the sort of common sense policies to Annapolis. He never quite did that. And one then has to wonder if really Larry Hogan's 2 victories in the governor's mansions were more of a reflection on the candidates he was running against as opposed to Larry Hogan being Larry Hogan.
Do you guys, we're running a little short, but let's get back to the presidential race for a moment. Since you brought up the candidacy and talking about Hogan, let's get back to the presidential election just for a moment. And do you think there should have been a different Democratic presidential candidate? Darlene, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think the time has come for these parties to take a look at themselves inside and realize it's the same machine, the same chain, nothing changes. People who really are on the ground and trying to fight for the little man don't get an opportunity. So I really, really, really think that's something that needs to be discussed. And I've gone from Democrat to Republican to independent. I mean, it's time to really just sit back and think about, do we need a two-party system? Do we need to allow the electoral college? There are a lot of things. I'm sorry, I'm preaching. I apologize, but
Right.
to answer your question.
Hey, Barr, let me ask
Yeah.
you, how do you see a Trump presidency?
I see tax breaks early on. I see businesses getting less regulation, and I see that leading to economic bubbles and bursts like we've seen in the past. I also see an authoritarian use of the federal government in ways we've never seen before, and that scares me.
Andrew, what do you think?
Listen, I think we've seen an authoritarian use of the government over the last 4 years. When you have SWAT teams showing up at the homes of pro-life demonstrators after the local district attorney hasn't charged them with anything, I think that's an authoritarian use of the federal government against the ideological enemies of the state. And we've seen it before. We saw it during the Obama administration as well.
What SWAT teams from what government agency?
The up and raided the home of a pro-life activist and arrested him because of an incident in front of an abortion clinic. You can go and look at it and look it up. It actually happened.
Let's not stop there, though. Go ahead. Shannon, let's hear from you.
I think that the election is over, that the voters have spoken, and that it's time for all of us to wrap our brains around the results that we have and actually try to find policy we can all agree on to move our country forward. It'd be better use of our time and resources than to sit here and fight and nitpick and, try and have some revisionist history.
Darlene, let me hear from you quickly now.
Well, yeah, just quick.
Wait. On the Vice President-elect, J.D. Vance, what do you think of him?
Before he ran for president, he seemed to be a great guy in terms of, working hard, looking out for your family, all the ideals that most of us have in this country. Earlier Shannon said people have a right to change their mind, and I totally agree with that. But my concern when President-elect won, I went back to the 1800s and thinking, I hope he doesn't die of pneumonia because the alternative might be way worse.
Go ahead, Ann. I'm sorry. Anybody else have any comment on that? Anybody?
No, listen. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for JD Vance. I'm very excited. He can articulate a message. He understands policy. I think he's going to be great.
Shannon, final comment?
I think I'm hoping that the advances in our medical system are such that we have a President Trump from the beginning to the end. But if not, I have faith that Vice President-elect Vance will have enough folks around and that he'll be ready to step in if necessary. That's how our system is built.
Barry, final?
It's the fait accompli. It is what it is. And I'm more concerned about what this administration is going to do to the country than any individual who the vice president is. That's my greatest concern.
Well, this wraps our final Square Off election special. We've had 3. We've had an excellent turnout in terms of viewers based on the Google Analytics. We love you for that. We will still be around in this administration. They won't try to shut us down. Would they, Howard? Never. Okay. So thank you so much for your support, continuing support. We're at squareoff.net, and we are also on YouTube at Square Off Show. Is that correct, Howard? Very good.
That is correct. That is correct.
Sorry to wake you up. All right. Enjoy the weekend. Keep rooting for the Ravens. We'll see you next time, same place at squareoff.net. Once again, we square off. Goodbye. Thank you all.
Bye.